Welcome back. We are chatting with baseball man, author, speaker, and lover of the game and lover of its players, Bill Severns. I wanted to ask you about, you're an engaging guy. I can see you, even though I haven't seen you in a clinic or in a speaking engagement. You're good at all that stuff. But writing is it's a different game, it's a different discipline, and it takes a different kind of approach. Talk about writing, maybe the joys and the challenges of that particular discipline.
Well, you're right. My mother always used to tell me, I never could figure out why I always got a B in English. And she says, well, honey, you write like you talk. Long and too much. And she goes, your ideas are great. So I would always get an A for content and a C for form. So I always knew I would need a writer, a ghost writer, to help me. So the night I was coaching my 22nd year of youth baseball, and I had a little bit of a confrontation with a coach who, his third baseman on his team was one of my favorite kids forever.
Wow.
I'd known him since he was 5 years old. He had facial hair like yours when he was 7. Just a kid I loved. And he, right before the game, I said, how you doing, buddy? He says, good to see you, Coach. How are you? I said, good to see you too, Nick. I said, you remind me of me. You love the game that much. He goes, yeah. Coach, I love this game. Well, the first ball hit to him, he missed. And the coach in the third base dugout went nuts, and it was kind of not a very good deal.
Yeah.
And I had never said anything to another coach, but I looked over at him and I said, hey, stop it. I said, this is an amazing kid. I don't know if you know or not, but he loves this game and he's wonderful. And what I didn't know is that it was his dad that I was talking to. Yeah. And the next ball hit to him. He blocked it with his chest. He picked it up, and he threw it 50 feet over the first baseman's head.
Oh, now he's in his head.
Because he's scared.
Yeah.
He's afraid. And you can't do anything if you're afraid.
Yeah.
And something went off in my heart and said, okay, write your book.
Wow.
You can help this guy.
Right.
This guy's having a bad day.
Yeah.
And I knew with all of my friends in the game that I could write a book to help parents relax and enjoy their kids. Because the one thing I do know is that time flies. And pretty soon your kids are gone. And as a parent,
if you're not good to them when they're young,
yeah,
they're not going to come see you when they're old.
And I'm so thankful now our kids, we have 10 grandchildren, and they all live within 5 miles of us. So I'm glad they wanted to come back. That's kind of a fun thing, you know, because you want your kids to come back. So anyway, okay, write your book. So I knew that night I was going to write a book. I didn't know how, but I've always been a journaler. And so I started writing, and I wrote for 3 or 4 years. Just stuff I observed and wrote. And then the next day after this confrontation, I called the guy who runs our program and I said, how many kids have played in this program? And he said, well, since 1951 there's been 65,000. And I said, how many have played in the big leagues? And he said, oh, that's easy, none. So I knew the odds just needed to be explained to parents so they wouldn't be so upset when their kid makes an error. So I after another year, I found a writer who had a great man of faith and a great man who loved baseball. And he took this monstrous amount of writing.
Pile of notes.
Yes, it was this high.
I love it.
And he said, I see it. I see what you're trying to say. And that's all he said. And he said, in 90 days, your book will be in your computer. So 90 days later, he called me, and my book was there, and I opened it up, and there it was, The Keepers of the Sandlot. And I started crying because I had no idea I'd write a book.
Yeah.
So you have this writer, and I'm a journaler. And so I write millions of thoughts and stuff. And someday I'm sure everybody will box it up and just put it away. But for me, it's the way of writing is I put my stuff down, and then I get somebody, like my mother says, not so long.
That's right. Get that C and form up a little bit.
Let's push that up a little bit. So it's kind of the way I do things now.
That's fantastic. So here we are, it's 2018, and you have all of these incredible accomplishments. As you say, you have your family, including grandkids, close by you, but it's Saturday in August, and you're in Park City, Utah. You're still out on the road. You could be relaxing with a glass of tea at home. What drives you now?
Well, I read a quote one day on LinkedIn that said there's two very important days: the day you're born, and then the day you realize you're doing what you're supposed to be doing while you're here. And helping dads and parents just understand that you have a kid for a very short period of time, and pretty soon they're gone. And the last chapter of The Keepers of the Sandlot is called The Ride Home. And you know, a lot of times it kind of falls apart on the ride home. Parents get into it with their kids. They're chewing them out. Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do that? And I had my share of those times. And that should be the time where you just tell your kid how much you loved watching them play, and that was the greatest day of your life, and the summer was great. So I've had a lot of parents and dads just thanking me for reminding them why they do this. You know, and I like to encourage parents, whether you're in Park City, why I'm here today, I think the parents should be able to build the program, starting when they're 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. Surely, somewhere along the line when you have a kid, you thought you might coach them in something.
Sure.
Whether it's baseball or soccer or lacrosse or cello or art or whatever.
Absolutely.
I think parents should be really active in coaching their kids. Don't just leave it up to the same 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys to do it, because your kids don't really care what you know about the game. They just want you there.
Yeah.
They really do. They don't care what you know. They just want to be with their mom or their dad or whoever's raising them, because that gives them a tremendous sense of belonging, I think. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
And it occurs to me that one of the things that you've been very effective at communicating is what you've learned along the way by being around kids, by being around different kinds of kids, and the kids in your own family.
Yes. You know, different kind of kids. There were days when I would say to myself, why is this kid out here? He doesn't want to be out here. And then I would say to one of my children, I don't think Bobby wants to be out here. And they would say, Dad, Bobby loves you. Bobby needs to be on this team. So maybe I didn't see it, but my kids did.
How about that?
My kids were the keepers of the Sandlot. You know, kids that's the advantage of why we're here this weekend, and to go over to the field for a little bit, because that was 9 kids that cared about each other, you know, and took care of themselves. So you know, I liked it. And some of my friends, Ned Yost, George Brett, some of the guys that helped me write my books, we all thought that the greatest thing we ever did was spend time with our kids, no matter what they wanted to do. And then we don't have any regrets. I mean, you can only do so much, and then your kids are gone. And then you drop them off somewhere and you ride home alone. And you just don't want to have any regrets. You want to say, man, I didn't work that extra day at work. Or I didn't go on that extra trip.
Extra sales call.
Extra sales call, you know, I just didn't do that. I stayed home for my kids. And that winds up, then you have no regrets. And you feel like you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Don't know what they're going to do.
But peace of mind.
But peace of mind, and you did the best you could.
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Bill, tell folks where they can follow along, not only to get your books, but I'm sure that there's a schedule out there on website, et cetera, that they can know where you're going to be and get a little bit of your goodness in person.
Yeah. Well, thank you. My website is keepersofthesandlot.com, and my son, Will, runs my website and all that. And they don't trust me on the internet. They don't trust me too much, because sometimes I link things I'm not supposed to. Or I post, I say something like, "Why'd you say that?" And I'm going, "I don't know," And I thought maybe I'm not good on that. Maybe I ought to just let him do it. But it's keepersofthesandlot.com.
Fantastic.
And that keeps up with kind of where we are and what we're doing. And anybody that would like to talk, my email address is sandlotkeeper@gmail.com.
That's an easy one to remember.
Sandlotkeeper@gmail.com. You can email me if you have a question, and I love the interaction part of it with parents and stuff, and that's kind of what keeps me going.
Well, I sure do love the interaction with you, brother.
Thank you
it's
so
much. Nice to meet you.
It was a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for all that you do, and best of health and vitality to keep on doing it for decades to come.
Well, I hope so, and thanks for having me on here today, and thank everybody for being in Park City. It's a great time, and you're a great interviewer. You helped move it right along. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Great job.
I love everything you do, and it's a great pleasure to sit down with somebody who's so committed. We sure do appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
That's Bill Severns. Make sure to check him out right across, not only with his email address, but on the internet as well. And I'm sure that he'll be on a Sandlot near you very soon.